You will wonder why by this slide. It's about the Plone and the blockchain. You can decide yourself who's the beauty and who is the beast. So who of you knows what Bitcoin is? Well, I've heard of Bitcoin. Just raise your hands. Yeah, so it's a currency. Who of you knows the underlying technology, blockchain? Heard or knows what exactly it is about? Okay. And anyone actually use blockchain in production or having an eye on it? No one. Okay. So the blockchain is basically the basic technology behind Bitcoin. It came basically from the Bitcoin world. It's basically a distributed database for cryptocurrencies. And it has basically three features. One is it's completely distributed, so it's based on a peer-to-peer network. So there's basically no central entity of control. It means it's all completely decentralized. Basically, when you have a Bitcoin blockchain, sorry. Always confuses the terms. It's completely distributed around the world. There are lots of copies, and key features basically is completely safe and secure because there's actually no way to manipulate the blockchain because it's distributed and everyone has a copy of the full data and can basically directly verify that the data within the chain is basically safe and couldn't be manipulated. So where does the term came from? It's basically a list of linked blocks. Each block has a hash and contains transaction data. The transaction data basically a list of hashes of, let's say, content objects or transaction data. And the key feature or the key point behind technology is basically that every block of blockchain is basically hashed with the hash of its predecessor block. This makes the complete blockchain verifiable. So there's currently lots of buzz and marketing in the blockchain world, and basically every industry is looking into blockchain because it's just hype, just because of bitcoins. And there are lots of different use cases in industries checking how the blockchain technology can basically be applied to their own business. So lots of companies from the auditing or banks, financial transactions, logistics, it's pretty strong efforts are kind of in the B2B business. Quality assurance, we have to deal with something like SOPs, standard operating procedures, ISO 9000. Legal, automotive is very strongly looking into blockchain. So, but has this to do with Plone and content management? Any idea? No. I'm basically in the same position. I'm coming from the publishing world, content management in 15 years, and it's time to look how can blockchain technology be applied to content management or content, and particularly to Plone. We basically work in some areas where we have to deal with documents, where we have to deal with revision safety, something like audit trails. Customers or people reading content must be able to verify the integrity and the authenticity of content. And that's basically, in the fields where we work, basically something like medical, healthcare projects, legal documents where they deal with contracts, technical documentation. So the idea basically here, it's complete science fiction, but short before the implementation, is trying to build a prototype based on Plone and blockchain technology. And the idea basically is providing a prototype or building a prototype where you want to build a collaborative editing environment for the healthcare sector. They basically have a life cycle from Vision 1, Vision 2, and so on, based on collaborative editor called Smashdocs. And it will be integrated into our traditional XML-based publication workflows where we generate PDF, HTML, and EPUB from XML. And the ingredients are basically Plone, Smashdocs as an editor, and BigchainDB, which is currently some kind of the MongoDB of the blockchain databases, and it uses MongoDB under the hood. So we're back with block. And that's basically the architecture, how it will look like. It will be based on three core components. Plone, base X. 30 seconds. Oh, okay. Plone, BaseX, and BigChainDB, and we will basically provide the document lifecycle from revision 1, 2, 3, and so on. And with each revision of the document, we basically have assets like PDF and so on. And the idea is basically calculate the hash values for each of the assets for a particular revision, store this data in the BigChainDB. The assets go into the BaseX database, which is a XML database, and keep the metadata in Plone. Get in touch.
Next up is Erico Andrei, a Brazilian Berliner or a Berlin Brazilian with WebSauna. Next up after that is Anton. And after that, Fred van Dijk. So move slowly up if you are giving one of the next talks.
Want me to tap dance?
Yes.
No, thank you. Not today. Okay. Hello. Today I'm going to talk about WebSauna. First of all, it's good to be back. WebSauna is a web framework built on top of Pyramid. Basically, Miko developed that, creating his companies. I kept track on the third and the fourth. I know about the current one. But the whole idea is to solve a lot of problems when you have to build something fast that could be later on upgraded and improved. So you need to have authentication out of the box. It's there. Templates, Jupyter, not a notebook integration because you have everything there. It's being used in production in many sites. Token Market is the current startup from Miko. He asked me to say that they are hiring like crazy. Okay, so that's merchandise from him. And they help other companies to do ICO. So blockchain again, 2 in a row. Miko wanted to be here, but he was kind of afraid because of what happened last time. There's audio, but I'm not going to show. But actually, Miko has a katana. It's true. Okay, anyway, enough about Miko, right? Americo. I've been working with Pyramid for the past 3 or 4 years. Most of my time I'm working with Pyramid, and from time to time I need to create something from scratch, like, okay, we need a new database or something. And always takes a lot of time because, okay, I prefer Pyramid because in the end it's the best solution, but to get started it's always painful because, admin, validation, authentication, and so on and so forth. There are too many options, so I've been playing with WebSauna for a while in different stages, and I'm helping Miko now because Miko is going in full I'm crazy finish mode. So I want your help as well because WebSauna has been there, it's being used, a lot of people use, but nobody's taking really care about it, so I'm jumping in. And springtime, I'm asking for help on Saturday and Sunday, and there will be another sprint in Spain. Anytime during winter, we're going to rent a villa, because, again, blockchain, and to basically improve Pyramid, WebSauna. But the first thing is we have some current issues to be tracked. First of all, we need to move WebSauna to Pyramid 1.9. There's a work in progress. I would love, Steve Pearson is around. Hello. I would love to cut some corners and get from the source instead of trying to read all the documentation. And basically, Miko, to create the first version of Web Sauna, hammered a lot of things, put a lot of monkey patches, and of course, when you do that, things blow on your face when you need to upgrade. Second thing, documentation. Hey Sven, where's you? Yeah, I have no idea. Oh, no idea, I'm blind from there. But he has to get a good picture of him without any booze, so it was hard. I got this one from the spring team, I believe Arnhem. So he's going to help me a little bit to set up the tool set to create documentation. And of course, user testing. Every talk I gave, I put a picture of Oliver because I'm a proud dad. So we need people willing to create stuff with Web Sauna, to test documentation and see bugs, because usually what happens is, okay, I go there, I try, it fails. Oh, I kind of know the solution, I fixed, and I forgot to fix that. So basically, we need all types of help. And thank you for your time, and here's Mikko in his natural environment in Finland.
Yeah. Well, Plone conference and Python web. What? Everybody of us loves Plone. That has attended the past few years the conferences. But there is a tradition we now had since the last few years. We always had some special tracks for JavaScript, for general other Python web frameworks, connected technologies. On the other hand, we see at larger conferences like the PyCon US, the EuroPython, Python becomes so big that, well, Python web becomes smaller and smaller. So the conferences handle all over, but the people that are talking about web want to have a platform to talk with each other. We have discussed that a long time also in Munich. We do have a very vital user group. And the fantastic thing is that we do have people from different frameworks. And we have Anton who stepped up and say, wow, why don't make a Python web conferences that spins up and goes around the world? And Anton stepped up and make a PyCon web conference last year in Munich. And what we, as the Plone community or the Plone people, Max and me, sitting at the university in Munich, does is, hey, we do have a university. What has a university? They have space, they have room, so bring them up, give them some speed up, and make it. And, well, Anton, take the chance, organize the conference, and do it again.
We just had it working. Okay. I think that we have a plan B. So what if you just note the PyCon web name, and if you go to pyconweb.com, you'll see a lot of details. We have a wonderful video from our previous event, and you can just watch it there. I wanted to show you, but I think it's not worth it playing with adapters. So pyconweb.com, take a look on the video, sign up for our news, and I hope to see you next year. Thank you.
Next up is Fred van Dijk, music to your ears. After that, Nate, you're on.
Okay, time starts, I hope. Music to your ears. Got a bit of a confession to make. I'm an audiophile, or I maybe turned into one over the years. And every time I've been to conferences and sprints, and I'm talking to some people, and I watch them computing away, and I see them with their headphones, and I talk about them how they listen to the music, it sometimes makes me sad. So what is it? We all need flow, and we work, as you've heard, long hours. There's a lot of ways to reduce stress, but one of the things we do is we listen to music, and that helps. And to get in flow, we do a lot of things except for music. We remove distractions. We have our special working desks at home. We get rid of our family members. We put on our headphones for our co-workers. We exercise, we do yoga. We have very expensive laptops, and we say, look, I've spent 2,000 euros on my laptop, but I use it every day. And then when it gets to music, people put on a 10 euro headphone. And then I say, yeah, but I don't hear a difference, or I don't care. And I don't agree. If you don't hear a difference, then you might not have the right audio setup. And if you don't care, then you should remember that maybe you don't hear something, but you might still feel it. And then it still influences you. It matters a bit more for some people or for others, but still, this is the three remaining units or two remaining minutes. I'd like to talk a bit about this. If you buy some audio equipment, most of the time, 20% of the money will give you 80% of the result. And if you see very expensive stuff with other people, the very expensive stuff is the remaining 80% of the money. This is the music chain. This is what happens. And in the end, it gets into your brain, hopefully. And with this whole chain, the weakest link rules. So if one of these 5 things is not okay, then you might not hear any difference. So, music source, we all stream today. It's all Spotify, and you can up the settings there. Then the thing which got me really into becoming an audiophile was the DA converter. And this is something that's really important. It's really underestimated. And the truth is, most manufacturers, where you can plug in some audio device, it's an afterthought for them to put a real good DA converter in there. So it really influences all your music, and the default thingy in your mobile phone or on your laptop most of the time won't do. Cables. This is the really ridiculous part. Wrong fingers. Don't spend 3 euros on a cable. It's the sweet spot is somewhere between 20 euro on a cable. And if you spend more than 50 euros, then they're trying to ripping you off, or they're selling you gold, but it's still important. And last, headphones. Headphones can also color. It's a personal taste. In-ear, over-ear. It doesn't matter. But still, if you only spend 10 euros on a headphone, then you can spend 400 euros on a DA converter, and it doesn't help. So it really is the change. And I won't get on speakers and amplifiers, because this is really, really, really audiophile difficult stuff. This is what Apple is doing the last year. It's removing all the separate parts in the chain, but you're stuck with Apple. So you can't really improve any part of it. So then you say, okay, but I don't want to spend more than 10 euros. Okay, but if you do the technical calculation, what my current setup is costs around 300 or 400 euros. If I listen for 2 hours of music a day, that's 6 cents an hour. So, my personal experience, an ear opener for me was getting a small USB stick which had a separate DA converter, and it really helps me listening to music much, much better when I'm mobile, and also when I'm sitting at home, when I don't want to hear my boss making phone calls, whatever, it really helps. It gave me details I'd never heard before in my music. Something that's happening is depth in music. When you listen to it, suddenly the artists come to you. And this fiddling around with it really gave me another way to learn, experiment, and enjoy my music way, way more than I ever thought I would. Thank you. Enjoy your music.
Nate, you're next. And after that is Manuel Reinhardt. I'm pronouncing it German. I'm just assuming here. It could be anything else.
Almost. So besides processes, we also open source our code, and this is a quick tour of 3 small packages for Pyramid that we recently published. They all include documentation and tests, as it should be. And the reasons are, of course, giving back to the community and also getting told that my code sucks and how it should be done, so I improve. And they're all meant for Pyramid when you're running Pyramid behind, like in big corporate environments or in platform as a service providers where you cannot have an Nginx in front or similar. So this one will just force everything to go to HTTPS, so your users are more secure. The second one is you can do redirects in Pyramid with just configuration like this. It supports regex, and if you move content around, you can do 301 or 302 redirects to keep your SEO juice flowing. And the third one is custom to Heroku. So if you're running Pyramid on Heroku, which is a great platform as a service provider, check this one out. It's going to make your life easier. I'm especially proud on the last one, the migrate script, which will automatically run Alembic migrations on every build, and then it will actually make the build fail if the migration fails, and also that makes sure that you keep online, you don't break your production. All automated. Like I said, they all come with documentation and tests, and they have optional support for StructLog, which is a great logging library if you use that. The code is on GitHub. The releases are on PyPI, so enjoy.
Thank you. So, you all may have heard of our Plone 2020 discussion and thought that was really forward-looking. Well, the next talk is called Giesing 2060. Now, that's looking ahead. After this is a talk which doesn't have a name. It's 10 years of euphoria, a Plone success story. So whoever put that in, make your way up front.
Yeah, that should do. Hi, I'm Manuel Reinhardt. I'd like to show you Giesing 2060. It's named after a district of Munich and the year 2060, and it's a science fiction writing project. It has a shared setting that's basically Giesing in the year 2060 and potentially multiple authors. I started it with a friend of mine who's a designer. We used a design-first approach, and we did mobile first. So this is basically more or less the mobile version of the design. We're planning to add more stuff to the left and right if there is space for it. We have two basic content types. One is a snippet, which is basically a little piece of story that takes place in one location over a short time, and that you should be able to read in a few minutes. And the other is a storyline, which is basically a container for snippets. The homepage is already a snippet, so you are supposed to dive straight in. And we crafted it especially to have some pointers to multiple areas of the site. And the idea is to have several navigation axes, so you're not supposed to read this like a book from beginning to end, but after each snippet you decide, okay, what do I read next? So there are several choices. For example, you can have links in the snippet that would lead you to other snippets. And then you might read that. Or you can, more in line with a classical approach, just read the previous or the next snippet in the storyline, which you may recognize as the next previous navigation here. And every snippet has a timestamp and a location. And we have these viewlets here that show a timeline, for example, that just sorts the snippets by time, and you can see what happens next, maybe in some completely different storyline. And you can have these location viewlet, and you see what happens in this same location at maybe completely different times. So you can click any of these, or if you really know what you're searching for, you have in the hamburger menu, there's a search along with the main navigation. So if I'm looking for two characters called Andrew and Gravity, I could search for those. And it's all in German, I'm afraid, but you can do all the Plone things, like limit to a certain type of a certain content type. So you just have snippets now, and maybe this is the snippets that I was looking for. And to make it really interactive, we have commenting, and you can just click and this pops up at the bottom here. So if you enjoy writing science fiction or Python code, or ideally both, get in touch. We'd like to have more people on board. Or just go to giesing2060.de and check it out and have a look. Thank you very much.
Next is Alexander Pilz. And after that, Jens.
This is Euphory, 10 years anniversary. That's a Plone-based success story, and I want to show something that shows that Plone is not dead and is actually not dying even. This is about risk assessment. Euphory is an acronym, of course, and it's a software to guide employers and employees through the mandatory health and safety risk assessment path. That sounds quite boring, but it's actually necessary if you live in Europe and you have a company with more than 12 employees. Then you are required to have a risk assessment. Who has a company with more than 12 people? Have you done a risk assessment? You have? Yeah? Okay. If something happens in your company and somebody is injured, if you're the boss, you get to jail. Did you know that? EU rules. Also, rules by EU. Yeah? Of course, they realize this is a problem, so they have to do something about it and offer easy risk assessment. Actually, the Netherlands were first. In 2007, Euphory was implemented back then by Wichert Ackermann and Cornelis Kolbach as assessment tool to support making risk assessments online, very easy, without paying big consultants a lot of money. 2008, it was adopted by the European Union for about 20 member states. They also offer all the content. That's where we came in. And in 2015, there was a major overhaul of the UI, so it's modern, HTML5, full mobile support. Still very nice backend and highly performant, so you can have masses of users using this in parallel. In 2016, we got interest by an industry client for a custom version, so finally out of the gov era into the private sector. The client saw that, did some initial tests, saw the Plone CMS in the backend and said, wow, easy to grasp and use. Client UI, very intuitive, well suited for engineers, little time for risk assessment. It's not a popular thing to do. 2017, we adapted that to the corporate CI, some custom features, some improvements, and word reports, of course, very important thing, easy to do with Plone. That's how it looks in the backend. Some of you, some older people of you might recognize the new Plone interface. Still working fine. On Plone 5 though. That is the front end, which is of course fully responsive. You can imagine you go around your company saying yes or no, this is a problem, I don't have that problem, printing a report afterwards. That's the adapted version and the mobile version. Why was Plone so successful? Customization and enhancement was very easy. We all know that. It was a breeze to hook up a sophisticated document, docx report creating Python package. There was simply no discussion at all with their internal IT and legal department about security. It scales well. We have 8,000 users growing on this one. And then open source was a big argument, a big pro factor again. Future. After 2 years of investigating, they suddenly made the decision to use this. They are enthusiastic now, up to the top level management. When can we start using this? Oh, this is so much simpler than now. All the paperwork we can save. They have literally carried kilos of papers every month into the factories. We have a pilot phase with a large set of users until the end of the year. Further export of data, slides for introduction about risk, safety measures, company-wide rollout in 2018. This software is far from being dead and is basically what we wrote 10 years ago. Thanks a lot.
What? No slides. Oh, better.
Yeah, no slides. They're so yellowish, I prefer blue. I would like to invite you to come to Innsbruck to work with us on the next Plone. Now we're talking about 5.2. We had today an open space and discussed that we may be able to use SOAP 4 with Plone 5.2, and at the Alpine City Sprint in the end of January, from the 22nd to the 26th in Innsbruck, we will work on this topic and maybe on other topics in the Plone core that are popping up meanwhile. And if you in core development or wanted to learn it or want to write documentation for it, you're invited. And what we are doing there, well, in the past we always visited some fancy spots, like we saw quantum computers or crazy old 360-degree virtual reality-like paintings. Last year we've been in the tunnel under the Brennero, one of the longest train tunnels they built in Europe. And this year we try to get a visit of a spacesuit lab we have in Innsbruck. They have they're building their analog Mars mission spacesuits. They're kind of simulation spacesuits for the Mars missions. And it looks good that we can get a visit there. So, and there's also the mission support center over there of this mission. So, yeah. Also, besides hacking Plone, we try to do something fancy. Thank you very much. And, come to Innsbruck.
So that concludes the lightning talks for the day, and that means we will now hold the annual general meeting of the Plone Foundation here. So if you are really bored by that, you are kindly requested to not stay here. If you are interested, and it shouldn't take long, you are very, very welcome. It shouldn't take too long. I will try to... I would like the other board members to come forward as well. And I will try to connect this laptop. So, let's get started then. I kindly request people who do not want to be here but want to chat to other people in the hallway. That would be really nice. Is this better? Sorry. So, the request was if you want to talk to other people, please do it anywhere but here. We sent this around to the membership, but not everybody may have seen this. This is a short representation of what the board did the last year. Oh, can you shut that up? Time's up. So we have a board. We had a board of directors. Alexander was liaison to the education and security team. Philip to the framework team. We have a membership committee. Thanks everybody on the membership committee. We had ambassadors, and two of them are here, namely David Bain and Manabu Torada. Very much welcome. Please stand up. We helped fund quite a few sprints. The Alpine City Sprint, the Beethoven Sprint, the Boston Post Conference Sprint, the Midsummer Sprint in Jyväskylä, the Zope Resurrection Sprint. The Zope is still not that even more resurrection sprint. The Toulouse Sprint, which didn't have a catchy name, I think, and some smaller, the Ljubljana Dragon Sprint, which also involved our friends from the Pyramid community, on which we will be talking a little bit more. A meetup in Kinshasa in the Congo, and a meetup in Sylhet, which is in Bangladesh. So we are reaching out to faraway places. Not funded by us, but notable was, of course, Plog in Italy. We were represented in PyCon US, EuroPython, PyCon Web Munich, Kiwi PyCon, which is in New Zealand. We helped re-evaluate Plone for the Idealware report. For those of you that don't know, Idealware is an organization that assesses CMSs for the non-profit market, and they're hugely influential, so it's a big deal to get a good review there. And they always review very honest, but also very fair, and we usually get a really good, glowing review. They also criticize some things. They said, like, yes, it is harder to set up than WordPress. Yes, some of the things are clunky, but you gain in security, you gain in workflows. It was a very balanced and honest report, and thanks everybody who helped to get us that good evaluation. Thanks also to Mike Verstappen, who is our key person for CMS Garden. CMS Garden is a German initiative where lots of open source CMSs work together and go to places where you would normally be lost as a single small open source CMS. So working together helps position all the ones better against the proprietary competition, and it's also just good fun to talk to the other people. So, and Mike has been coordinating that. Alexander was also there, and yeah, it's a great initiative. We had World Plone Day. We had some smaller things at a Drupal camp, at an accessibility meet. There was the annual meeting of German universities. If you haven't listened to Eric do his podcast on, what is it called? PyCon podcast something? What? Podcast in it, yes. It's I think half an hour. It's really fun. So go listen to it. We had an article in a German magazine, obviously in German. There was a Dutch article in Emirs, which is quite an influential magazine as well, but it's in our curious grunting language, but maybe Google Translate will help you with that. As we've noted already, this year we had 5 Google Summer of Code students. We had a transition after many years. Matthew Wilkes, who was always our go-to person to be the mentor, he finally abstained, but we found a new victim, namely Chris Ewing, who did a fantastic job of keeping everybody in shape, whipping up mentors. And he went, together with David Bain, to the Mentor Summit last weekend at the Googleplex. You managed to come here, but Chris was just like, yeah, there were kids that needed to be fed at home and things like that. So he says hi, but he couldn't make it. The foundation has offered financial support to the students to be here because we find it important to broaden our audience, and it's a great experience to actually have them at the conference. We renewed the trademark watch service. That's the boring legal part, what we have to do. We're still in legal proceedings against the domain grabber. Those things can drag on. That's sometimes the not so glamorous part of board work, but it has to be done. We now have a shiny new, well, I don't know if they shine in the data center, but a special, a dedicated server for Jenkins. We also have a few other dedicated servers. There still needs to be a lot of improvement in the next few weeks and months because some of our sponsorship from big companies will unfortunately end, not only to us but also to read the docs and whatever. That's kind of annoying. But yeah, Kim did a great thing where you can indulge in all the shopping you want on Amazon, and the foundation gets a percentage of that. It doesn't cost you anything. You just go to, smile.amazon.com instead of the usual amazon.com, and lo and behold, we get like 0.5% of what you buy. So as much as I normally say, like, reduce your consumerism. Well, if you're going to buy stuff, think of us. We had a major sort of incident this year where some rather shady character claimed that he had hacked the FBI. It was pretty obvious pretty soon that it was a complete fake. He was trying to sell the exploit for lots of Bitcoin, but it was a complete fake. Some really clever and quick work by the security team and by others turned that around and actually turned it into a marketing opportunity, saying like, actually we are so secure that people have to resort to fakes to pretend that they can hack it. So it was a bit hairy for a few days, but in the end it actually turned all right. And we decided to support morally a new initiative called publiccode.eu, which calls for all public spending within the EU on source code to be open source, because it's taxpayer money and it should be open source. So we're mentioned there with GNOME and basically everybody else. Probably the saddest event of the year was the passing away of Jean Ferry, Brazilian long-time Plone organizer, Python organizer. I think many of you will remember him and will always remember him. Yeah, it was sad. We, as always, like to thank our sponsors. I'm not going to name them all. If you're not a sponsor, think about becoming a sponsor. We have optimized the procedures, so it's a lot easier to keep track of them. Yeah, that's everything. And then we can move on to the financial reporting, which I have to say is always a bit hairy. I hope you can see it. No. Does this help? It still doesn't. 150 maybe. Yeah. That's better. It is sometimes a bit hard to read because, for instance, we have been handling the American sponsorship income for this conference over the foundation, because otherwise the banks take silly amounts of currency exchange. So that money has come in this report, but the fact that we now have already paid it out so that people could have like snacks and lunch and things is not reflected in this report, because this runs from the beginning of November until the end of September, so everything that happened in October is not reflected. So it's a bit skewed. The too long didn't read version of it is we're doing fine and we should be spending a little bit more. I open up the floor for questions on this. I mean, there is no financial worry, but yes, honestly, we can afford to spend a bit more. That's our message for next year.
So, any question on that?
Or on the whole report.
So, that's the last action as the active board. So, we need someone.
No.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I think in the past few years, well, I've been on the board, this is the third year, but we don't spend as much on our marketing as we could, and we would like to. It's been hard to coordinate a single global marketing campaign, as I think you all know. But still, because of the increased spending we've been giving out on supporting sprints, we would like to be able to get more sponsorships in on a more regular basis. So as some of you know, the Plone provider listing is at minimal cost on plone.org to be listed on plone.org. So obviously our premium sponsors get top billing on the front page of plone.org and plone.com. The sponsors get higher, slightly lower listing, but the providers get pretty significant listing right now. We want to change that to try to bring in a little bit more money. And we'd obviously like any one of you, any of your companies that are using Plone or selling Plone, universities that are using Plone, we need your financial support. So please be at least a standard sponsor, if not a premium sponsor, and get on the front page of Plone.org and Plone.com.
And for the provider listing, as said, it will probably become slightly more expensive, but we will still keep the regional it is priced according to what you ask your customers. Currently, to be listed there, we say, what do you charge your customers for an hour of work? And we're probably going to change that to 2 hours. But the reason to do it on that level is because $200 is not much for a European company or an American, but it is a lot for an Argentinian company or an African company or a South African or a company in Cambodia. So to keep sort of that price equality, it's like, what do you charge your customers regularly? You pay us that. That for us seemed like the most reasonable compromise, so that people in high-income countries and people in low-income countries get an equal chance to sponsor. With that, the term of the 2016-2017 board is over. Unfortunately, we've only had 7 nominations for the new board. And unfortunately, there are not a lot of fresh faces. To be perfectly honest, the exact same 7 people nominated themselves. So that means you could handle this with a simple vote. We cannot make a motion because we have just resigned as a board, but anybody who is a member can make a motion to reinstate those 7 people, and I should mention I don't know all the last names. I'm so bad with them. Honestly, last names for me, I never. So there would be Alexander Luchel, Chrissy Wainwright, Philip Bauer, Victor Fernandez de Alba, Carol Gans, Kim Nguyen, and me. And you don't get to vote on the treasurer, but we are very happy with our treasurer, Jen Myers, and we will probably also ask her to stay on. But we cannot make a motion, so a member can make a motion, and then we play this American Foundation game, where I will have to ask all in favor say aye, and then everybody who is allowed to vote says aye. If they agree, don't say yes, say aye. Don't ask me why. It's an American thing. They elect weird presidents and they have weird words for voting. Just say aye when you agree, and then I will ask those opposed say nay, and if you disagree, you say nay. And then I will ask any abstentions, and if you abstain, you don't say anything, you raise your hand. It's a bit of theater. We have to do this. So, Erico. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oh yeah, sorry. Oh, American, yes. Very good. We need a seconder. Yes. Okay. Maurits seconds the motion. Very good that you remember. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Any abstentions? 1 abstained. Should be no. 2. Philip and Alexander. Seems to be a Munich thing. Yeah. So with that, Chrissy and Carol are not here, but the rest of us are. So we would like to thank you for that confidence that you have in us, and we will try to do our best to represent Plone again. And some of you will be harassed to be on various committees, such as the membership committee. You will find that out in the near future. And does anybody any member with voting rights now has the chance to say and start a discussion on any topic that sort of pertains to the foundation, please.
I don't know if it already happens, but is the foundation supporting Bitcoin donations? Bitcoin donations.
At the moment, we're not supporting Bitcoin donations. We can ask if that is a possibility. It is a bit difficult because we have an American bank account and they seem not the most modern ones in the world. They tend to send a pigeon over the ocean when we need to ship money into Europe. So it depends on our bank account because we need to get it out some way as well.
Yeah, I'm just asking because a few weeks ago I donated like 0.0 to the Free Software Foundation. And
it's worth exploring. I mean, we can open a Bitcoin account somewhere, I guess. But yeah, sometimes you also want to physically have money that you can actually spend. And I know in Arnhem you can spend your Bitcoins on beer, but that's probably not very useful because we're not allowed to spend money on beer as a foundation.
I have a related question.
Yes.
Does the foundation have a green policy? A environmental policy?
We have recommendations for the organization of conferences, but it's also dependent. I mean, this conference is not doing very good at that, but that's also when you hire a caterer. That's a bit. Sometimes you are bound by what you can do. I mean, we do have recommendations. We don't have enforcement on it.
I'm just being an ass about Bitcoin.
No. There is one topic I would like to start if nobody else has. There has been talk. It is not final in any way, but there is definite talk of opening up the Plone Foundation to, let's say, the family and friends. Already the packages of Guillotine are under the Plone Foundation copyright. And Guillotine is very, very close to us. I mean, it's, our sort of like evil twin. So, no, that was really easy, but we will also be having friendly talks with our beloved friends from the Pyramid community to see, because they currently lack a legal framework to organize. There's tons of legal issues and things that will pop up and that need some careful reflection, but as an initial state of mind, the current board has said, yes, we're very open to at least opening up the discussion and going in it very positive. The final decision on whether to open that will involve a change of our statutes, so that will be opened to a membership vote. But yes, we can tell that we will go into discussions with the Pyramid group, family, community, whatever you're calling yourself these days, bands of sisters, I don't know what the current term is, with a very open mind and the idea that it would be great to have them in the fold. Initial reactions on that, or? Okay. Okay, then.
Any questions? Any wishes?
Yes. Oh, yeah, that is another one. We are also still in sometimes difficult discussions with the Zope Foundation, which is technically not functional anymore. And they are also in a bit of a bind because part of the Zope Foundation is sort of also linked to the Zope Corporation, which technically also does not exist anymore. So there is, it's a bit unclear, but we're very much on speaking terms again, and there is, we're trying to solve that situation, but there it's even more unclear because lots of things are not actually with the Zope Foundation, like the intellectual property rights. They actually rest with Zope Corporation, and nobody is really sure who that is anymore. So that's more, that's legalities that pose an issue. But we'll keep on working on that. Yeah, that is the idea, but yeah.
They will probably not join the Zope Foundation. They will just cease to exist, and they will remain. That's the plan. Yeah. It's not for. They will cease to exist, and they want to give everything to us with that they have, and they don't have any
Any question out?
Then it is time to, as the insiders say, somebody needs to pull a short.
Yeah, I move to.
That is the in joke on the board. Since ever Sjoerd from Arnhem was on the board, he was always the one who made a motion to adjourn the meeting because he was always very eager to attend his refreshment drink. So making a motion to adjourn the meeting is unofficially called pulling a short. So somebody needs to pull a short.
I move to adjourn the annual meeting and go to party.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. You always say nay.
No, I want to drink.
Any abstentions? With that, I thank you, and may you all have a great party. Remember, party responsible. Try to be on time tomorrow. It's really nice for the keynote speaker if he or she doesn't stand for an empty room. I don't know if there's an announcement that we need to make. Victor, do we need an announcement to make? Everybody knows where the party is, I guess.
Thank you, Paul. For
Okay. What? Oh, yeah. Should we? That? No, we don't do that now. We do that at the end of the conference. Okay. There is one final thing, which I totally forgot. No, for this year, the foundation, there was actually multiple cities that were interested in hosting the next year's conference, but as our rules state, the board does due diligence, and the due diligence led to only one of those proposals being seen as perfectly viable, which means there won't be a membership advisory election on what next year's location will be, because there is only one location, and it will be announced tomorrow at the end of the conference, as is traditional. But yeah, since there's only one, there is no sense in holding elections on that.